Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Dorton and Doetkott Debate Podcast, episode 92. Lucas Dorton, Nicholas Doetkott, and a brand new guest, new friend of the program, Matt Vanderbosch. Matt, how you doing, man?
Good. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time out to join us. We certainly love having new faces on and some new experiences for Townball is always pretty cool as well.
Yeah,
But
sure, sure.
So, Matt, you play for the Miesville Mudhens. So, how long have you been a member of the Mudhens for?
Let's see. I joined in '07. Um, yeah, came back, started live with some friends that were on the team and just kind of migrated and started getting more familiar with the team and started playing from then out and pretty much been like player manager kind of that whole time as well. So
Yeah.
it's been a while.
So, yeah, yeah, a little over a decade plus. That's it's a decent amount of time with the program, so that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It's been a lot
Um,
of fun. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, a couple questions that, and as you've watched a couple of episodes in the past, can be the same ones I'd ask everyone, but I just kind of like to know where everyone else is and their baseball and their town ball fandom a little bit with that. So growing up and maybe now, do you have a favorite professional baseball team that you like to follow?
I like to obviously you got the Twins, right? I think pretty much most amateur players here are Twins fans, but um, I have some ties with the Boston Red Sox. I like to follow. Growing up, my dad's from the Chicago area, and we were always watching Cubs games too. So I'd say probably those three are teams I kind of follow, spark interest.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now a few other questions kind of off of that. Who is your all-time favorite Major League Baseball player that you got to watch?
That I got to watch. Well, that's a good one. I would say, well, I think childhood brings you back to Kirby Puckett for me. So, yeah, I think growing up, in the '80s, early '90s, that's kind of he was kind of the face of the franchise at that time, right? And fan favorite.
He's the
So I
man.
go with Kirby.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad pick by any means at all. So love it. Love it. And then maybe who is a favorite player that you really appreciated who wasn't a part of the three teams that you had mentioned before, that you just really liked watching?
Uh, I don't know. I was always a big Barry Bonds fan. I know with the everything that's happened, after he's been out of the game or whatnot, but I still look back to a lot of that stuff within that era, and there's a lot of things going
Oh yeah.
on. And some of the more popular players that had the most success are probably the ones getting the most scrutiny for it, but that's kind of part of the game. But the way I look at it is like, he was competing against people that are on stuff too,
Yeah.
right? But it was just
Very true.
like, I mean, I think it's something funny like Otani's season. They compared it to Bonds's, top overall
Yeah.
offensive season, and it ranks like 10th or 11th
Yeah.
to Bonds. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. How do you really compete with that? Stuff or
Mhm.
on juice or not on juice, whatever it is. But
I myself am a very, very big Bonds fan, so I appreciate that answer.
Absolutely.
perfect.
And then the last one for you, maybe there was a guy. I never know how to phrase this question, but I think the best way to put it is maybe he wasn't someone who was the best at what he did. He's not going to make a Hall of Fame or anything, but I guess maybe the guys that you really appreciated that maybe didn't get a whole ton of notoriety throughout their career. Like people have brought up like Nick Punto before. People have brought up, like those types of guys, I would say. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. That's another good question. Gotta try to think back to maybe some of those like a Torrey Hunter. I know he did have a lot of success, but like what he meant to like the Twins in the early
Yeah.
2000s, right? Like he kind of
Mhm.
carried that. I mean, they had a lot of success too. Kind of,
Oh yeah.
led the way for things to happen, target field and things like that. But I would say maybe like someone like Amy's, but probably one of those guys that really, kind of helped out and carried the franchise there for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean Torrey's no Kirby Puckett, statistically, but for me, he was my Kirby. What
Yeah,
you said you grew up with Kirby, I grew up with Torrey
for
Hunter.
sure.
I as a little kid, I'd watch Torrey Hunter rob those home runs, and then I'd go outside and play catch with my dad, and I'd be like, it wasn't even catch. I'd just be like, Dad, give me something I can rob, give me something I can die for. I just wanted to be Torrey Hunter.
Yeah, he was something special. I remember that stuff too, him robbing all that, over the bag or that baggy fence that they had at the old Metrodome, things like that. Seemed like he'd do that every day. So
Yeah, he
pretty cool.
robbed Barry Bonds of a home run in the All-Star game.
He
That was
did.
pretty
Yes,
sick.
he did.
Yep. Well, that's a good one. I think Tory Answer is a very respectable one for sure. I'm Colorado. I'm a big Rockies fan. Todd Helton is my all-time favorite player, but someone who unfortunately injuries plagued a lot of his career. For me, it was Troy Tulowitzki. I mean, watching him do his thing at shortstop, I mean,
Yeah,
genuinely was so much fun. So you mentioned doing like the robbing the home runs. That was, me pretending to be shortstop and making the Jeter-esque throw from the hole and making the sweet plays of play. But that's cool.
sure.
Cool.
Hmm.
Love that. Awesome. Well, thanks for giving us a little insight into your kind of baseball fandom background. Everyone's built a little bit different. Most of the time it is Minnesota. So a lot of the answers are pretty similar, but for different reasons. And that's what's fun about it. So it's totally okay. It's totally okay. Um, Awesome, Matt. Well, yeah, let's dive into it a little bit here. So, talk to me a little bit about your baseball career, kind of progressing. Let's say maybe starting in high school and going to kind of where we are now. Obviously, you've had a little more of a different path compared to most players who have been able to do town ball as well. But talk to me a little bit through all that. That's pretty awesome.
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Woodbury, and then in high school, I moved and transferred over to Hastings. I was able to join a good athletic group in Hastings. We played multiple sports, and it felt like we went to the state tournament just about in everything that we did too. High school, we won a state championship in '99 against. Well, actually, we beat Joe Mauer's Cretin to go to state. Ended
Oh,
up winning that year, and then after high school, I was kind of unsure of what I wanted to do, either athletically, hockey, baseball. Ended up kind of following some leads and some recruitment down to the Arizona JUCO route.
Hmm.
So I went down to Yavapai, the JC in Arizona. Spent 2 years there. Had some good success, and was able to get. Um, I took a scholarship offer at Oral Roberts University in Oklahoma. Then finished a couple years there. Was an All-American with them, and was ended up drafted eighth overall, or what round was it? Ninth round, I believe. So the Red Sox eighth pick in 2004, and then I played for 3 or 4 full seasons. I can't remember. No, it must have been, yeah, it was '07. Ended up getting hurt and got released there. So that's when I came back and moved in with some old Hastings buddies that were playing for Miesville, and that's where that relationship kind of started and took off from there. So yeah, it's been all Miesville ever since, right? So but it's a fun kind of full circle. I should say too, I had a little stop like after high school. I was playing amateur ball with the Hastings Hawks, the town
Hmm.
team there.
okay.
Sure.
For a couple of years, and then after college and pro ball, when I came back, just started playing out in Miesville with some of my other buddies that were on the team at the time. So that's kind of like full circle there. Just kind of high end overview, but 42 now, and it's still going. So I'm gonna try to ride it till the wheels fall off.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. Love that. I love that. Um, so obviously having some pretty cool opportunities, some Division One opportunities, getting drafted. Talk to me a little bit about that process. Obviously, going the JUCO route and then having the opportunity to go to Oral Roberts. Was there a time where you were getting towards the end of your collegiate career to then where you're like, I might have a chance to maybe do this thing professionally, or was that something that was completely out of your radar and just kind of happened, or what was that kind of mindset for you through that?
I knew like so after I after my junior year, there was some interest there, and I was kind of projected to be, like a 20 plus, or I shouldn't say 20 plus. I think they're saying maybe like in the late 20s to 30s,
Mm.
potentially there. And I was just like, nah, I'm going to come back for my senior year. It's not, it wouldn't be worth it, at that
Mhm.
point. With the conversation. So I knew that was on the radar going in. Senior year was phenomenal. I think we finished 11th or 10th in the country.
Wow.
We lost to Texas within the regional, and we had like a 50 win. I think we were 15-11 that season, and it was just a fantastic senior year. So kind of that I knew I would be going somewhere. I just didn't know where. So that process is it's kind of weird. 'Cause at the time, I didn't have like an advisor or really anything happening. But I didn't really know what to expect, right? So, um, kind of when the draft was happening, so the regional was at the same time as we were coming back from Austin. Got a phone call by the Royals, potentially going to take me in the fourth, and that was a super pumped. And then that passed, and I think like a high school pitcher got taken, and then you're in the dumps, and then you didn't know what's going on, and then you get another phone call at ninth round, go to Boston, sweet. And then my roommate was our shortstop at the time. The 4 picks later, he got taken by the Yankees.
Ah.
So we're like Red Sox, Yankees. We're like best friends. Through our time there, and then all of a sudden we're drafted, and then
Yeah.
we're arch enemies, right?
Yeah.
So
Was this
that's
the
kind of like
'07? Oh, sorry to interrupt. Was this the '07 Oral Roberts? What year was that?
no, this was '04. Yeah,
'04.
'04. Yeah, I played '03 and '04 at Oral Roberts, and then '02, '01, and yeah, I played JUCO before that. So I was drafted in June of '04. So that's kind of funny, kind of random too. So my roommate and myself get drafted like 4 picks away from each other, one to Boston, one to the Yankees, and that's kind of a fun story to
Yeah.
tell.
Absolutely. He was used to making those great plays in the hole and watching him from the outfield, and now I hate you.
Yeah. And then, through our career too, we were kind of stayed, at similar levels, right? We went to rookie ball, or I shouldn't say rookie, short season A, and then he got called up to Double A when I was there, and we didn't meet in Triple A, but yeah, we kind of each level we progressed. We like New York was always in every league that we were in. Just kind of East Coast. You're in those same leagues. You're in the Sally League. You're in the Florida State League. You're in the Carolina League. You're in the Eastern League. So, but yeah, you run into a lot of those guys kind of going throughout, and it's fun to see. And then those guys that really they make it above and beyond, and you're like, hey, I played against him. Oh, hey, I remember him. I remember facing him.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I looked up the '04 Oral Roberts roster, and there you are on the very top. You're the first one
There
because you're number two by the looks
Yeah.
of it.
Yep. Number
Yeah.
two.
we go.
I was seeing if I recognized any of the names, but I don't think I do.
I don't
Who are
think we
some.
had any big leaguers from that team.
Sure, sure. I guess you kind of briefly touched on it, but to dive into that a little bit, who are some of the guys that you got to compete against that were able to kind of make a pretty solid name for themselves at the highest level?
Yeah, so like playing within Boston, I played, with Hanley Ramirez, I played with Pedroia, I played with Ellsbury, I played with David Murphy, Brandon Moss, John Lester, Papelbon. So a lot of those guys went on to have really good careers, in the majors.
Hmm.
We played the Twins like all the time because Fort Myers spring training, and it's
Oh
like
yeah.
Denard Span and Alexei Casilla and Glenn Perkins, and those guys were predominantly, within the mix if you're playing in spring training games against
Hmm.
them, or you get called up to the big league games, or you get You break camp, you go to Double A, and you're playing against all those guys as they're progressing. You're like, the Twins were terrible. They were just a dominant lineup because he had like Spanik Casilla in the lineup, and then Perkins was pitching, and like they were really good. Those two at the top, and it was like, oh man. But no, it's yeah, it was, yeah, a lot of names. It's hard to remember all of them
Yeah.
right now. And then every once in a while you get those big league guys that would come down. You kind of get
Yeah,
awestruck. I remember AJ Burnett had a rehab stint against us in Double A, and
nice.
um, Carl Pavano was rehab. Hideki Matsui. We're in the Double A playoffs against the Yankees, and Hideki Matsui is doing a rehab playing in the playoff series against us. We're
Really?
like, okay, that's great. A little cheat code you guys can bring in.
Say minors clearly don't have a rule around who can and cannot play in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, there's no rules. He's got to get ready to go back to the big leagues, right? But then, yeah, we're in a 7 game series with Trenton, and yeah, and he's got Godzilla is sitting there in left field, and so
World Series MVP Hideki Matsui.
yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you think about it long enough, you could probably get a pretty solid book of players that you got to compete
Yeah,
with. So that's pretty sweet.
yeah, for sure. I wish I would have done a better job of like, keeping tabs on who those guys were. At the time you're just like,
Oh yeah.
whatever, going through it, and you're
Yep.
just, I wish I would have kept my jerseys and my, different, baseball cards and stuff that you had. Just that's fun stuff to look
Mhm.
back on, but think about it at the time, and
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
so
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. No, that's pretty sweet. I mean, I think a lot of people obviously getting to do the town ball route was pretty cool. So talk to me a little bit because you mentioned you played town ball before you were able to do the kind of the Division 1 getting drafted route. So what was your I guess thoughts or on town ball the first go around before you got to experience all of that baseball?
it was a ton of fun. So I was kind of dabbling between like collegiate leagues and town ball stuff in between there. I always enjoyed being home playing town ball with your buddies. At the time, well, at that time we were swinging medals too, so that was fun. Um, swinging like drop fives, and
Oh,
and some of those bats that were
yeah.
pretty live at the late 90s, early 2000s. Um, so that was a lot of fun, and just being like playing 2 or 3 games a week, and being you can work, do some like landscaping, make some cash, and like hang out with your buddies and go to the game and get some at bats in. That was great. So that was kind of like my Hastings experience there, and then after coming back, a lot of those guys had left that team, and then moved in with some guys from high school that were playing in the Miesville squad. So that's what led me to go out there. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how did you initially get into baseball? Did you have an inspiration, someone that kind of pushed you to go that route, or is that kind of your own path? Where did that come from for you?
I think a lot of kids, I can remember being 4 years old, 5 years old, same backyard, throwing the ball up, like, wanting to play the ball, wanting to be that, you know, be a twin, or whatever, or football or whatever else I was doing at the time. But I have my dad's cousin was a Major League Baseball player, John Castino. He played for the Twins like from 80 to 84 or something in that era. But yeah, I knew that there was, some baseball ties within the family, and, um, my dad didn't necessarily play, collegiately or anything like that, but he was always involved with ball, and it was always kind of a big thing, especially and for our family, would make sure they came to everything that we had, right? My brother and I, whatever we're playing, or we're involved in all sports, but that was a big part of us growing up, athletics. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Is Hastings? You said you went to Hastings, correct?
Yeah, I grew
Are
up in
they
Woodbury and
they
then
kind of
moved to
known
Hayes.
for? Are they kind of known for baseball or no?
But yeah, I think they had a really good high school season this year. I think they were a win away to go to state. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was, I think Hastings is kind of one of those towns that it can be very cyclical, so you could have
Yeah.
a group of families and then there's just a ton of kids. Like we'd had pretty big classes back then. And then, we had blessed with a lot of good athletes within there. Hockey, baseball, football, basketball, wrestling,
Right.
like all sports were good. So
Yeah.
I transferred in. Um, every sport that I played in, we were just fortunate to go to the state
Wow.
tournament.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so football, baseball, hockey, we're just rolling right from state tournament, state championship game to boom, we're going out the first game of the hockey season or
I
whatever
say
that
you
is.
went straight from one season into practice for the next, probably. Then you have no time.
Yeah, I remember we played in the Prep Bowl senior year, and then the very next day we had a hockey game against Eden Prairie.
Nice.
And we're just, yeah, you go from try to go to football shape to hockey shape. It's not really,
Yeah.
it's totally different. So we get the second period, we're dead, right? So, but yeah, that was those 2 years in Hastings. We were just boom, 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 just blessed with a lot of good athletes, and we all played 2 or 3 sports. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. I guess so. That's a good question then, because there's a bit, a big thing, and I guess in today's youth of, should kids have an off season? Should they just keep going and play a lot of sports? You obviously live that, and maybe you feel that way, maybe you don't. But what's kind of your thoughts on that whole mindset as times kind of evolve, I suppose.
It's definitely changed, right? It's been a while, so it's 24 years ago since I graduated and kind of went through all that. I've always been a big believer of playing multiple things and doing everything, as long as you can.
Mhm.
I think it's good for a break. I think it's good for, just kind of learning different aspects of a team sport. So baseball is going to be a lot different than football, and
Mhm.
and hockey is going to be a lot different than wrestling or whatever it is, right? So, having those different avenues, like. I think nowadays there's a lot of emphasis and there's a lot of money, from a business aspect within youth sports. So
Mhm.
I think there's kind of a fine line where you can kind of go too hard, too young, too fast, where you can kind of get some of that burnout. So for me, I would prefer to see kids playing multiple sports up until probably, I don't know, I would say maybe 13, 14, 15, when you kind of know, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is what, really lights my fire if you want to focus in on that. Like, but also if you can continue to play multiple sports, that's something to be
Yeah.
had too. I think when I coached at the University of Thomas for a while, and that was kind of a big thing we looked at from a recruiting aspect, like, what kind of a kid are you? What kind of a student are you? But are you a multiple sport athlete? Or are you just
Mhm.
kind of, just doing one thing? If you're a multi sport athlete, that says kind of a lot about you and your work ethic and your character, right? So, I'm a big fan of that. I know it's changed a bit over the last 20 years or so, and but I think that it's still important to continue to do multiple different things, right? Just really, I think from a burnout aspect too. I stuff happens a lot younger nowadays, right? For a lot of stuff.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
going through it right now with my 9-year-old. That's he's been doing AAA hockey for the past 2 years, and it's like, man, I mean, he's only a second year mite, and we're rolling through multiple seasons of AAA hockey already, and you're like, yeah, we need to slow this down maybe a little bit.
Right.
Like, let's take a weekend off and go to the cabin, or do something else. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. I'm sure it's you figure out the pace and you figure out, kind of having that break and when it's important to have it and kind of being able to recognize it. But also, I mean, I'm with you 100%. I mean, I obviously is not elite at any sport I've ever played in my life. But I'm very much like, yeah, like there's gonna become a time where I'm not gonna be able to do any of this stuff. And I don't want to look back and say, man, I
Mhm.
regret not doing as much as I could when I was able to. So, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Um,
sure. Yeah.
so then, going back kind of took a little segue there. So kind of getting back onto the town ball side of things now. So now you have finished the professional side of things on the baseball side. Now we're back in Miesville. How was that transition for you going from playing minor league baseball back into the town ball scene now for you?
It was very, it was very freeing. I don't know, liberating if you want to call it that. It's just it kind of got back to just having fun again with the game. So, professional side of things, it's you're still playing a game, but it's a business. I mean, it's a grind, and it's definitely you see things that are a little bit more political, and you got a guy that can't hit his weight, and he just keeps getting opportunity and opportunity and opportunity. And he gets called up, and because they got $200,000 invested in this kid, and they got a team jacket invested in you. So you see that side out of it, right? So it's not necessarily about performance a little bit. It's more kind of political at the professional level, and
Mhm.
so it was just more refreshing, just getting back to just guys just out there that want to be out there, that want to have fun, compete, have a pop or two after the game, right, and go home, right. So it was much more relaxed. It was just it was I fell in love with it again, right away. Like coming back that summer that might have been like the most fun and summer that I had, involved with baseball. That '07 summer was a ton of fun to get back into it.
Absolutely. Um, I guess so then off of that, you guys have been able to have a decent amount of success in your tenure now back on the Miesville side of things. So talk to me a little bit about that. How many state titles have you been a part of?
I've been a part of four,
Nice.
'07, 07, 16, 17, and then now 24. Miesville is eight overall. Yeah, and that first year, kind of going into it, and that's what back when Class B was able to draft
Mm,
in the state tournament. So going into that year, I mean, we were Miesville then it looks a lot different than Miesville now. It's much more local. More of a like the traditional town ball, right? So we were kind of like 500, record wise going into state in the playoffs and stuff like that. But we're able to qualify and then could draft a few players, right? You had to grab a couple guys from Red Wing and a kid from Northfield and had some help there that,
Mhm.
kind of bolstered that. Um, that was that type of a team to where I think Miesville is now. So every year we've kind of progressed and grabbed a little piece here or there, kind of used our network. So with myself or Chris Aline at the time, who's the head coach at the University of St. Thomas now, started adding, different pieces, from kids that we knew that were playing collegiately or this and that. So yeah, so now every year we just kind of add little pieces here or there, and yeah, we have a really solid group of guys. You got a good chunk of the younger crowd that are just getting into college or in college, a good group of kids that are just out of college, and then you got some old farts like us that are there just to kind of, you know, hold things together a little bit that, can't be there all the time now. But like when playoffs start and everyone, guys start going back to college and, we can
Right.
step in and take some at bats and see if we can get on base. So, no, it's been a lot of fun from the progression between when I started to where we're at now. I just I feel like that kind of like Class B over that time has really it was more in that town ball-ish era, but then it's kind of morphed into more of that competitive league, and teams are that have success really need to kind of stay up and bring in different players and pieces that can help you compete. It's nice. The competition has gotten very, very
Right.
solid and deep too. So there's so many teams that could beat team at any given night. Like our section, just for instance,
There's some good
there's like
teams. Anyways.
yeah, there's probably I would say 5 or 6 teams that you could make a case like they had a shot to win the state tournament, not just to
Yeah.
get into state,
Yeah.
but to win it. So.
Yeah, because you got what, like Dundas and Elko and Newmarket all right at you,
Dundas,
right?
Elko, Newmarket, St.
Yeah,
Patrick,
St. Patrick.
Rochester, um, you know, all those teams on any given day. I mean, they're tough. They all got
Mhm.
good pitching. They all got good lineups. They all play hard. A lot of the times it's just, is your regular roster lineup going to show up?
Mhm.
So if you have like a Wednesday night game in Rochester, you
Right.
might travel a little bit light. You show up with 11 guys, and you got 3 or 4 pitchers that are hitting, but yeah, so it's really progressed over the years, and like now that the merger with A of the past 2 years, there's really no breakdown between the A and B teams. I've felt that way for a long time. If anything, I felt like there's a little bit more depth within B.
Okay.
But now to make it all one, together, from a level standpoint, it just makes sense.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So being part of four state title teams, that's amazing. Congrats on that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Um,
Thank you.
is there anything that I guess is the feeling was the feeling any different this year when you won your fourth versus when you won the first, second, or third? Is there a lot of similarities from the other ones? Is there anything that's I guess alarmingly different from when you won this time versus won this time, the last time? And maybe it's just a feeling. You obviously talk about the player side of things too, doing some of more of the reaching out kind of stuff. But talk to me a little bit about that. Maybe nothing.
Yeah, so I mean, they're all special. Absolutely, they're all special. And then the biggest difference I would say between any of them, like the first one, just like I was just pretty much playing at that point. I didn't
Mhm.
have a lot invested into the team. I was there, like kind of. I signed a little bit later than they already played a few games. I came back from spring training stuff and probably like May, after like the teens broke, and I moved back home and
Mhm.
um so started playing there. So that one was more just like I was on the ride, right? And that was just, flying by the seat of your pants and that was a blast. That was just like a party those. The others have been more of like no, we're managing it. So it's like, we're making the calls of, lineups and pitching and how we're gonna navigate and try to get, and try to win. And so those, like I would say 16, 17 and 24 have been more of that, like when you win, it's more just kind of like a relief, like, oh, we did it. It's like, oh, that was a lot of work. That was so much fun. That, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I would say that would be kind of the biggest differences between all of them. Like the first one was more just like just on for the ride, and then the other three are more like kind of more of a relief. Like we did it, we got through it all, and able to take it home. So,
Is there others on the team that have won the four with you?
if you were to include our bat boy, so yeah, it's funny when I joined in '07, current player Joey Warner, who was an All-American at Minnesota State. He was our bat boy in '07. His
Wow.
older brother Andrew was on the team.
Nice.
He was our bat boy. And I he was like 7 or 8 years old, and but he had a mouth on him like he was a college kid already. So it's like this kid might be a good baseball player once, when he gets older, and he definitely is. So he's got three. So he joined us, I think, in 15, like just out of when he's getting out of high school. So he's got 16, 17, and 24. Um, there's a few others that have though, like Dirk Marks and Brian Sprout. They got three. Um, but yeah, Joey, if you include the Bat Boy, then he's got four as well.
We'll
Okay.
count them.
Yeah, we'll count it. Count it. Absolutely. Um, so being part of a team like Miesville, that has a lot of historical success, obviously 8 titles now after this year. Um, have you noticed, is there more of a pressure to win? And maybe that's not even necessarily anyone from the town that's doing that, but more so like, hey, we have something here. Like we got to come and perform every year, or is it just more of a let's see what happens. And obviously, the managerial side of it, you kind of touched on a little bit that brings a little bit of that, or you just kind of go out there and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about pressure, but I think there is, kind of that expectation. Um, we've been spoiled. We've been fortunate to have, great team over these however many years. Our community supports us like none other. Our field and all the work that goes into that. A great stadium and playing surface all the time. So there is a little bit of that expectation, I think, and I was kind of thinking about it this year. Is like, yeah, we've been to the final weekend of the state tournament since 2016.
Yep.
And so it's you kind of look at that and you're like, yeah, you kind of expect to be there, but
Yeah.
then yeah, you do feel a little bit of that pressure going in because especially the gauntlet of our section trying to get through that, navigate that, and get back to state. It can be tough. I mean, last year, we had a 5 game series for our playoff, our section playoff, and we went all 5 games with Elko, like down to the wire. And they're incredibly good team. That was a fun series, but that was back and forth. That could have gone any way, right? So
I didn't know you guys
so we
did five
almost
game series.
yeah. So it kind of can fluctuate every year, and see if we can get back to it this year. Depends on how many teams. If we have an even number of pairings of teams. It depends on how many teams were allowed to get in the state. So, like, let's just say we have 8 teams in the section. We're allowed 4 in the state. It's easy just to go
Yeah.
series play, and just whoever wins the series gets to go to state.
Mhm.
So we've done that. We've done different redemption rounds, formats, stuff like that. It can fluctuate each year, um, but yeah, it's we've been fortunate to have success and to get there. But yeah, there definitely I think there is kind of an expectation on our side, right? That we, but we know that it's hard to get there, and try not to take that stuff for granted.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean that's gotta feel great. I'm sure maybe there's like a little bit of a target on the back kind of feel, maybe from other teams, like knowing what you've done and the success that you've had. Obviously, I have great respect, I'm sure, amongst a lot of the other teams that you guys go against. I mean, great talents for sure. But maybe having some of that recent success makes teams wanna beat you a little bit more, I'm sure. And vice
Sure.
versa. I'm
I'm
sure
sh-
you have
yeah.
those matchups too for you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't look back to when Chanhassen had their,
Yeah.
3 or 4 years
Run.
there. That was kind of like, we won 2 in a row, and then we double dipped them on that second one. That was back to back and was set in 17, and then we were in line to win our third. Roles were reversed. So that was back when we had double elimination. So in 17, they beat us. We had to go through losers bracket, and we double dipped them to win the championship that year. Same exact thing happened just on the flip side, right? We roll into championship Sunday with having to lose twice, and we did. And then they battled off 3 in a row right there. So yeah, definitely like within those 3 years, it was like, yeah, that's the target. We got to get through that, right? So
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's definitely that the teams that and it's to same thing within our section. It's like you know every team is good, and you're just always
Yeah.
trying to gear up and match up pitching for our section games. It's next to impossible to get to line it up perfectly, but you always try to look ahead and like, okay, what am I going to do with this arm if I bring him in for relief? He's going to be burnt, so I can't roll him back for Friday's game, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you're always trying to like plan that stuff out ahead of time.
So going through it, obviously you've now very well versed in your town ball career at this point in your life. And again, question that I usually like to bring up because everyone's answer is a little bit different, but when you have folks maybe who don't understand what town ball is and they ask you that question, oh, you play town ball? Like like brought up to me a few times is like beer league softball, and I'm like, not quite like beer league softball. It's not you're in there, but not quite, I guess. For you, what would be the best way to describe town ball to someone who has no clue what it is?
Yeah, and so Minnesota's unique with it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's really any other state that kind of, well, Wisconsin maybe a little bit, but the overall reach that the Minnesota Townball community has, it's quite different than anywhere else. Having friends throughout the country, and they might play in a men's league here or there, but it's just like show up, 15
Mhm.
minutes before whatever, play one game a week, and weekend warrior, and you throw your arm out, and then that sort of thing. And it's those conversations, like, no, it's kind of like you're treating it like it's almost like you're back in college, or get to the game 2 hours early sometimes. We're
Mhm.
taking BP. Let's say if we have a 2 o'clock game, we're going to take BP from noon to 1. The other team's going to hit, from, well, like 12:45 to 1:30, something like that. We're working on stuff, right? And we're there to win. We're there to compete. So it's a little bit more than, just, adult beer league softball, or men's league stuff, right? It's all it is what you put into it. And I feel like
That's
there's
yeah.
a lot of Minnesota organizations and town ball teams that take it very seriously, and they volunteer their time, and they do field work, and they fundraise, and they do all that stuff because it's important to them.
Yeah.
It's important to them. It's important to the community. It's important to their families, and teams that do that I feel like they have success, right? Because people are invested. They want to be there. Typically, I feel like those have been the teams that do have success, and make it to
Yeah.
the state tournaments and things like that, right? So that's how I would kind of sum up, town ball. It's an important aspect, especially in those communities where it's a little bit more outside of the metro. It's more
Yeah.
pride in your fields and your organization and your town, and things like that. So.
Is
Definitely.
there one piece of advice that you got personally throughout, and it could have been any point in your baseball career, whether it's high school, college, professionally, that you try to take with you through now your post-professional career, or maybe where you are now, even in life, in your baseball life, that you maybe try and preach to other people, or something that you personally like to live by with that?
Well, I think looking back on things, like, just it's kind of cliche, but don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Especially looking back on the professional side of things. I think that when I was going through that, it's kind of relaxed a bit and be like, no, I'm fine, I'm good, or whatever. Like, and all of a sudden it's done, and you just can't do anything about it. And that was hard to swallow. And then I look back, it's like, I wish I would have done this a little bit better, or worked a little bit harder. And so those things that are important to you, just don't take that stuff for granted, and really work on your craft, whether it be baseball, or your professional life, or your family, or
Yeah.
anything like that. Like, that stuff it can be short-lived. Like, things can be taken from you just like that. But it's yeah, I think that's probably one thing, looking back on my baseball career, that would apply, moving forward, is just that, those little things. Like, if it matters to you, work at it. Don't take things for granted.
100%. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that was fantastic. I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that for sure. Um, Great, man. So I think we're kind of at the end of our side of things here. Is there anything else
Well,
that
I want I want to put them on the spot real quick.
oh, okay.
Uh, uh, what's your World Series, Matt? What is your World Series prediction?
um I don't know. I kind of get tired of the Yankee and Dodger stuff, but
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, but I mean,
I don't know.
seeing two Goliaths
I don't
against
know.
each
It,
other will
it,
be
it
kind of
does
cool. But
feel like the Yankees are just kind of
yeah,
gelling.
I
They're
think you're
they're
right.
they're hitting they're hitting some really good pitching. Like, they're pretty dominant right now. So I don't know. I think a lot of that stuff is kind of like, if you're riding that wave, I'll see if they can continue to ride that
Yeah.
wave. If I were to pick, I would say them, and I'm gonna go Yankees in 6.
All right.
Okay.
I just hope it's a good series. I really
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
I know. I'm sure Major League Baseball loves it, right? They got
Oh yeah,
LA and
especially
New
after
York.
last year, they
So
had the two underdogs, and the ratings really
yeah,
bad. It'll be really good this year.
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
There you go. Yankees in 6, folks. Go ahead and put it in the books, obviously legally, of course, do it legally. Um, but there we go. Awesome, Matt. Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on and taking the time out of your day to join us. It was awesome. We would certainly love to have you back. You have an open invitation anytime you would like to come on, and certainly would love to reconnect with you on that. So that was great. So
Perfect.
thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Thank
And
you.
as for Nick and myself, folks, thank you for listening in. If you or someone would like to come on, chat some town ball, chat whatever, certainly reach out. We'd love to have new faces on. I get tired of seeing Nick all the time, so it's certainly nice to have someone else on here to
This
shake things
beautiful face.
up with that. But, anyways, folks, as for Nick, Matt, and I, this is episode 92. Until next time, we are out.